What a great place this is. This is a discovery for me. I come from Ontario, and in Nova Scotia, I'm one of those CFAs. And in Newfoundland, well, that goes without question. But what a generous crowd this is. And so it's just so nice to be part of this, you know, to do a workshop and, yeah. But it was also wonderful to hear the poetry last night. And thank you, Stephen, for your poetry tonight. And thank you, Lynn, for yours. But there's a couple of other things I wanted to say. Liz, this is a vision, you know, that you have had for 8 years, and you're to be commended. I can imagine the work that goes on behind the scenes all year long, so that. Yes, but you know, something should be said just for you alone. Terry, thank you for getting us all here and housing us and getting us from A to B. And all the volunteers, there's so many goodies there, you know, and I was kind of sidling over to the table where the goodies were last night, and I was sniffing, you know, wonderful stuff. So you are to be commended too. Thanks to all the volunteers. What I love about this festival is I've never been in a festival where there has been an empty chair and a photograph for the writer, and we should bear her in mind, Nazreen Sudute. We should really keep her presence alive because it's important to do this. And in fact, I thought I would begin with a little snippet from the Marram Grass, which is a book of essays that I wrote. And I thought I'd begin with this just because I think this is really what the practice is all about. So there's a little snippet from one page. Let me find it. And it is something to do with what we did in the workshop today, envisioning, seeing into. We were talking about imagery, but really we were talking about seeing into. Envisioning, seeing what is possible, is what the imagination allows us. It provides us with a bridge from self to other because we see into the lives of others. Without this capacity, we can't empathize, since in such a state of fixity, we have no ability to move towards. We forfeit a sense of reciprocity, perhaps without even knowing that we're forfeiting it. After 9/11, the novelist Ian McEwan commented that terrorism does not have the capacity to imagine, for that would mean imagining the lives of others. Of the terrorists who flew planes into the towers of the World Trade Center, McEwan said that among their crimes was a failure of the imagination, the moral imagination. And so I just find that really powerful, because it is through our imagining that we can stand in the shoes of others, or we can imagine taking the seat for someone who is in prison. But let me just continue with that idea, which sort of goes on through this particular essay. And so I had mentioned the Dalai Lama, and here I say, this brings me back to the words of the Dalai Lama, that I myself, and I'm quoting here, that I myself will take up the responsibility, end of quote, for another. In the sentence immediately following this one, the Dalai Lama says, it is not enough simply to wish for the contentment of others. Responsibility entails generating powerful compassion, he says, but to do this, one first needs to develop a sense of intimacy and empathy with other beings. We all know this. But then he goes on to talk about the practice of Tonglen, which is a Tibetan word that means giving and taking. And in this practice, meditation consists of concentrating on someone or more than one person who might be suffering in some way. One imagines absorbing the suffering of an individual or individuals, the Dalai Lama explains. And this is followed by imagining the well-being of this individual or individuals. In other words, compassion arises out of envisioning or imagining. It arises out of seeing into. And so just a little further thought, it might be said that poetry too is like the giving and taking of Tonglen. It absorbs the world, and it works in us by revealing the world as something that is not fixed, but is dynamic, not closed, but porous, allowing the exchange between one object and another, one person and another, one epoch and another. I'm worried about my P's. I can hear them, especially when I say epoch. It takes us into the world of otherness and then relinquishes us. It relinquishes its hold on us so we can return to ourselves. Beyond this, poetry shows us how metaphor works as a principle, not just within a poem, but within life. It shows us ourselves as if we were others. It demonstrates its logic of possibility to us. So I think really that's the gift of art, music, poetry. It's that as if